It's New Brew Thursday!
Woo!
And it is officially the new year.
Happy New Year!
That hurt. Ow. Thanks for that.
Yeah, that was a certain level of resonance. That just,
I forget that my voice carries.
You project.
You're a strong vocal corded man.
I have large lungs, large vocal cords, and, well, large other body parts.
What a strong diaphragm you have.
Hit me up.
Large toes.
Large toes.
This got awkward fast. Wow.
Oh, you
Well,
know,
it's a new
record.
discoveries.
That's right.
You may remember in one of our previous episodes, we talked about our end of the year beers.
End of the world beers.
End of the world beers. What did I say?
End of the year.
Yeah.
Well, my end of the world beer is now our end of the year beer.
Because we couldn't find the Avec lambic.
Yeah. The what?
Yep. Never going to pronounce that properly. Don't even ask.
Avec les amours.
Yeah.
Right?
Avec les bons vus.
There you go. Yeah, which I thought was, because it's by DuPont, right? And I would think that's highly accessible. I know.
Well,
I don't think that particular
Saison
one
DuPont
is.
is.
Yeah, Saison DuPont is their like table beer, but the other one is a little bit more hard to find. I think we consider it easy to find because Bill always has like cases upon cases of it. So I just assume that it's like everywhere, but...
Well, it was actually funny because the store that I went to get this at, the owner showed up while I was there, and I was like, dude, Avec les bons vus, and he was like, I know. He seemed sad that he didn't have it, so
it's actually a little harder.
Well, his sadness doesn't really help it put it in my mouth, does it? Maybe work a little harder next year,
in the future,
Jazz.
no.
Okay.
The sadness could
work a little harder, Jazz.
That was so easy, I couldn't even do it. But anyways, to ring in the new year, we are having my end of the world beer, which is Drie Fonteinen Geuze, which is...
It's kind of poetic. It's your end of the world beer, but beginning of the new year beer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Slowly expressed gas.
That's what she said?
So,
I hope not, because that's an awkward date.
But anyways, I think...
I would hope
Anybody
the
smell
date
that?
would slowly express the gas rather than blatantly express the
What's
gas.
up?
You know?
Is it a commercial?
the gas from
Just
this
making
bottle
room for
was-
dessert.
This gas from this bottle was silent but deadly. So anyways...
This is another highly aromatic beer. It's another one, like, I'm already getting the aromas.
You can smell it from here.
Yeah.
And, you know, the thing
But
is...
much different from what we talked about on the last episode with the 12-21-12. It's not a hoppy aromatic thing you're getting. It's the funk.
Yeah, it is.
Now, this is their staple line, right? The Oud?
Yeah, the Oude Geuze is their, like, standard. If you're going to find a Drie Fonteinen beer, it's going to be this one or maybe the Creek. They've got a bunch of others.
Green label goose,
Yeah.
which I'm unsure of what it is, so we're not going to get into that, I think.
I think that was like a vintage thing that they did, but they have a bunch of different stuff. Like they've got, you know, they just put out the Golden Blend, which is actually 4 years. Cheers. Yes.
Cheers.
Thank you. And then they also do the Schaerbeekse Creek, which is the best Creek beer on the planet. Period.
You heard it here.
Yeah, I said it. The thing that I love about Drie Fonteinen is they kind of encompass like everything that I love about Belgian Goose because, you know, they brew their own, but they're also mainly a blender. And as far as the beer goes, it balances everything that I love about Goose in the best possible way. I mean, you've got your funk, you've got that like saline kind of quality. I mean, it's sour, obviously, but it's not super in your face. It's got an incredible balance to it, which I think is really a testament to Armand because, I mean, the dude has a palate like... You know, that
now let me ask you this: you take a beer like, say, Logston Saison on Brett,
right,
or Phantom's Magic Ghost,
right,
which are funky beers, have a funkiness to them, but they're not goozes, obviously.
Yeah, they're completely different beers.
So, like, what do you think is that line of delineation that's like, okay, this is now a gooze? I mean, aside from the fact that it's blended from 2 different lambics, that I know that's what actually makes it a goose. But like flavor profile wise, if you were blind tasting them, where do you hit that line of that says, okay, I'm no longer in a funky saison with Brett area, I'm now in a goose land?
Well, I think it's all about acid.
Yeah, I think the acidity level definitely is part of it. That's really huge. Honestly, to me, the thing that always stands out as far as lambics goes, lambics to me always have a kind of like saline quality. It's like it's not necessarily salty,
right?
But it has that kind of, like I said, it's like a truffle salt kind of thing, where it's got that like earthiness to it.
It's the kind of salt you get out of a cookie.
What?
Where, hear me out. You have the sweetness, like if you make Nestle Toll House cookies, and I made a bunch this last week.
They were delicious.
But it's like you put in a hint of salt and a hint of baking soda into it, and when you're baking them, you're like, oh, that's not enough to really even alter the flavor profile at all. But what happens is you get that nice little like the sweetness, and then the salt hits you just briefly, and it's not like, okay, that was salty. It was like, here's this interesting little aftertaste that brings that salinity to it, but it's not salty. It's like it's working off of the other flavors that are there.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what I'm talking about with this, because I was going to say the same thing as the salinity content of the beer, or the flavor that I get off of it. That's where I go into like, okay, now I'm drinking a goose versus a
so we're coming down
lambic
it's all
or whatever.
About salinity. I don't think that's necessarily it.
Well, to me, it's one of those things that it's such a distinct flavor, and I don't even know if salinity is really the right way of putting it.
I see where you're going with it. I mean,
yeah, it's like an earthiness almost.
Right. Well, okay, because the sourness, the sour aspect of it, or the acidity aspect of it, I've gotten that off of a lot of Brett beers. Like most of what the Brett stuff that like the brewery puts out, whatever, a lot of those
I don't know.
Have a high acid content, in my opinion. Like Motherfunker.
That was not just a Brett beer. That was
a whole new level.
Yeah, that was a whole other thing. Yeah, because Brett by itself can produce some acid, but it's not going to be to the level if you have Petio and Lacto in there.
Was Motherfunker a Brett beer?
I'm not
That
sure.
was everything beer.
That was in everything.
They were like, what bacteria can we toss in there?
Yeah, exactly. I think one thing to point out is that, as far as like Brett beer goes, you can I think the concept of just Brett beer is a lot broader than, just goose, or even like, the blonde sour beer category, because you can put Brett into a lot of beers and it'll create a certain similar profile depending on what strain of Brett you're using. I mean, I bet, Chad Jacobson is like going, there's more than one strain of Brett.
Right.
I want to say we're not
experts in this topic at all.
We're just kind of going off what we think.
Yeah.
Well, and I would like to say that traditionally, I think, John, you're 100% correct. Traditionally speaking, farmhouse ales and the saisons with Brett and whatever, very traditionally have the heavy funk, low acidity, kind of more earthy tones to them, and you're going to get that salinity off of it just because you're getting a lot of that horse blanket, cat piss kind of flavor to it. But I think because of what craft beer has done, the craft beer revolution has done to the industry, it's kind of almost melded them closer together. So we're starting to see the flavor profiles kind of come together in a way that's like, I think it's harder to distinguish between those two flavor profiles, in my opinion.
See, I would disagree, because I think that you can, if you had like, an American Brett Saison and like a goose, I think you'd be able to tell the difference very, very specifically. Because like I said, as far as like that like salinity thing, I really only get that out of spontaneously fermented beers.
So what is the difference then? Like this is what it comes down to. Like, if someone's watching our show going, okay, you guys are talking about Brett beer and goose, blah, blah, blah.
Actually,
they're kind of the same, but they're kind of different. So what is the thing that makes them completely different?
Spontaneous fermentation.
And so we're talking about...
But you don't get that off of a Brett beer? Isn't that the point?
No, because the thing is normally with Brett beers, at least made in America, it's they'll choose like a very specific strain of Brett to use, or maybe a couple, something like that.
You're right.
But with a spontaneous fermentation...
These are all open air, they're musty breweries. They have cats running through them. Yeah. Cats are falling into the brew pit kettles.
There could be some bacteria floating around in there too, kind of thing.
Yeah, and so like I said, the flavor profile of this is, it's not just Brett, it's not just pedio, it's not just lacto. I mean, there's such an amazing variety of microfauna in this beer. I mean, it would be a microbiologist's joyride just to plate out all of the different bacterias and
but it's also,
microorganisms in this thing, and that's what gives it complexity,
Yeah, but with this one too, it's also a blend of different levels of what you're talking about.
That's exactly it.
Well, what is it?
Something that whoever blended it says, yes, this is what I think. It's their beer. This is what I think the best representation of a goose is.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, typically goose is what? 3/4 fresh lambic and 1/4 3-year.
It all depends on the blender. No, normally,
I really don't think we should get into that.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a
standard
baseline that they start with, and then they go from there.
The standard is a blend of 1, 2, and 3-year-old lambic. That's the standard idea of what goose is. But as far as like the proportions and stuff like that, it varies.
It says right here,
wildly.
as far as the beer goes too. I never read this. It's 60% barley malt, 40% unmalted wheat, aged hops, which is standard for a sour kind of like this.
for a lambic. Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to use anything bold, and it's got to be old, crappy fucking hops.
Right.
And spontaneously fermented by wild yeast and matured in oak casks. So that's
This beer is more
it's a
mature
basic
than we are.
beer.
Yeah.
But it,
There's so much going on.
the fact that they ferment with wild yeast, I don't know how. I really want
Well, the air
just
quality.
to check a place out like this, just to see how wild it is. Like, is it really just open?
Well, it is. I mean,
spiked and did they
Well,
have
and like that's
strains
why
and-
we've talked in the past about the fact that you could never brew this beer in downtown Los Angeles because the air quality is just not going.
Well, that's
to
my
allow for
point.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in the region of Belgium that these are brewed in, the air quality is such that that's completely acceptable.
well, and it's not even just the air quality. I mean, it's just the variety of yeast and bacteria that are in the air.
Right.
Because I mean, they brew it and they chill. They don't even chill it. They put it in a coolship. It's a big old pan, essentially. And
Because they
let
want
it cool
as
overnight.
much surface
Got it.
area as they can to get as much yeast as possible from the air.
No, actually, I think initially it was just if it was wide and shallow, it cooled off faster, and so they could turn beer over faster.
That's interesting. I always assumed it was a surface area thing.
Well, I think
It
it's
is,
just
but
because,
for different reasons.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that the reasons they did it like 200 years ago and the reasons they do it now are kind of different. Because before it was like we got to cool this beer off so we can ferment it, but now
The funny thing is that like
this is
like a random thought that pops into my head, but like
as opposed to what?
I know, right? But you know how you always have those discussions when your kid's like, oh, if you could go back in time, like what would you do? Like what would you, whatever. And the funny thing is, if I could go back in time, I would want to try different beers from different periods.
Dude, porter from
Like-
England from like the 1800s.
Right, like I'd want to go back and try like the chichicha beer that they were making in Peru in like, oh God, BCE, or like what the Egyptians were brewing or whatever, and just do like a time travel beer tour.
Yeah,
and
dude.
just kind of like, because I'm sure a lot of it tasted like absolute shit.
So you're talking
as
about
far as like what we're used to.
our show 1,000 years in the future.
It's like it's Time Travel Thursday. This year we're going back to 2012.
No, it's our show with a TARDIS. Is what
Exactly.
It is.
This bottle of beer is bigger on the inside.
One day, like some dude's just gonna show up. Like, oh, I'm here. Like, who the fuck are you?
I was sent back to be on your show to tell you that you were wrong about this thing you said, and it sent the world into chaos and created the World War III.
I've seen all your shows, and on episode 452, you're wrong.
Bill is gonna put his brain.
Yeah, there were so
like
many
on
episodes they could
Futurama,
show up on.
just his head.
Well, that's when he,
That's the one he had to fix to save the universe.
right.
We have our anniversary party coming up in 2 weeks, January 19th.
Jump in the gun.
Yeah, we have an anniversary party coming up in 2 weeks. We have these stylish, cool glasses that you will get if you come there early. We cannot guarantee them, however.
Cannot what?
Guarantee them.
Guarantee them.
Guarantee them. That's what we'll say in the
We cannot guarantee
Yeah, in
them.
the future. It's all the future.
It's all the future.
Guarantee them. Isn't
yeah.
that a city in Austria?
I guarantee in the future people are still going to be drunk, though.
And, if you have one of these and you're 10 years into the future watching our show, come back and show it to us. And we'll give you another one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on board with that.
But that means that one person that got one won't be getting one, and that'll create a paradox.
Yeah,
So-
I like
Loser.
paradoxes.
Don't do that then.
All right, so anyway, January 19th, Beachwood Barbecue in Long Beach. Come early if you want a glass, or just come whenever if you want to drink amazing beer, because we're going to be pouring a lot of stuff. Beachwood will have their usual selection of awesome on tap, and they'll have good food that you can purchase and eat, and I recommend that, because if you drink a bunch of beer on an empty stomach, you're going to have problems.
Or you're going to have a good time.
No, stay safe and drink beer.
Yeah, no, you'll get pulled over, and they will, like, butt rape you in county as you're trying to detox.
Yeah.
But
So-
like I said, if you're going to come down and have a good time, get a hotel
Hotel room, exactly.
Call a taxi.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
plenty of cheap hotel rooms around Beechwood that are very nice.
That's our upcoming event. We don't have anything else major planned in the future, so definitely come out and see us, and we look forward to it. And as always, until next time, stay safe and drink beer.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, bitches.